International leaders are in Egypt for a summit on the conflict between Israel and Palestinian militant groups. More than 20 prime ministers, foreign ministers, and regional leaders are attending. The meeting in Cairo is aimed at de-escalating the conflict and providing humanitarian aid for civilians in the Gaza Strip. The conference is being hosted by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. While addressing the summit, President al-Sisi said Egypt condemned the killing of innocent civilians.
It expresses its bewilderment and amazement at the solid silent stance that the entire world is actually embodying right now in the midst of a scene in which 1.5 million people are being sieged and are being collectively punished and are being forcibly displaced. These are practices that are denounced and deplored by the international community.
Well, we can speak now to journalist and Middle East analyst Kristin Helberg, who joins us from Berlin. Thank you for being on DW. So, leaders are already giving their statements in Cairo. Did anything stand out to you so far?
I think the idea of this summit is really to find a united stance within the Arab world at this point and within the region, because the leaderships of these countries, that especially the ones that have a peace treaty with Israel, that are Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Morocco and Bahrain, they are under a growing pressure from their populations that are furious about Israel's bombardment and siege of Gaza. So they really try to calm down their own populations to prevent a spillover, to prevent unrest within their own countries. And it's just not yet the time for an inclusive summit that would discuss, that would engage all parties to the conflict, Israel and the US as well, and to discuss long-term solutions to the conflict. So right now it's really about de-escalating tensions within the region. What can we expect? I think there is one point that we could focus on. Maybe there might be some positive results on the hostage issue, because we've heard yesterday that most of the approximately 200 people kidnapped might still be alive. And we see that the efforts to bring back home as many hostages as possible before an Israeli ground campaign could really speed up. We have seen the release of 2 American hostages. This is a sign of hope. And it shows that the diplomatic efforts by Qatar that led to these concrete results are a sign of hope. And we have to see that all the countries that have diplomatic ties, diplomatic channels to Hamas are present in Cairo today, which means Egypt and Qatar and Turkey. So there might be more coordination on that issue within these among these countries, instead of competing who has more leverage on Hamas.
All right, so then what are the common ground issues that you think the participating countries can agree on? You mentioned hostages. Is there anything else?
Yes, definitely. The humanitarian aid that is being delivered now, that has to be sped up, and it has to be more than what we've seen so far. To get the foreigners outside Gaza, there are about 1,000 people with foreign passports that need to be transferred to Egypt. I think all these countries from the region ask for an end of the fighting, or at least a ceasefire, to be able to evacuate civilians to the south of Gaza, to create security zones within Gaza. And I think they all agree on the fact that the population of Gaza should not be displaced to another country, for example, Egypt, because this could lead to a second Nakba, the catastrophe that involved the displacement of more than 700,000 people when Israel was founded in 1948. This word was used by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. So and I think there needs to be a talk about a long-term solution for Gaza with more international engagement, not leaving the responsibility alone on Egypt, because Israel, we have seen yesterday, already emphasizes that it's not ready to play a role there. There needs to be a new security regime, but Israel does not want to take over responsibility for life in Gaza. So who is supposed to play that role? In the past, the EU and the US have poured a lot of money into the Gaza Strip, but that is not enough. I think for the future, there needs to be discussed an international approach that would guarantee the security of Israelis and obviously the well-being of the people in Gaza and to prevent a situation that before led to these terror attacks by Hamas.
That was journalist and Middle East analyst Kristin Helberg. Thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure.